I'm Hannah, and I'm a senior. I applied to the University of Chicago in the fall, and I had to write an uncommon essay. I chose the prompt, "What's so odd about odd numbers?" and I wrote this essay about the coolest thing I've gotten to do so far in my life. The officer pushed all the other tourists aside and made his way straight to us. "Hello, welcome. Can I see your forms, please?" he smiled, his accent thick and apparent. I looked at the crowd of Chinese citizens, all speaking rapid Mandarin and waving their forms at the officer, who seemed to ignore them. My aunt, cousin, and I looked at each other, and my aunt took out the forms that the officer was referring to. He took one look, nodded, smiled, then led us through the gate. "Did you see that?" "He sought us out right away," my aunt laughed as we continued towards the exit. "I'm not surprised, though." I nodded. The three of us were blonde, blue-eyed, and definitely tourists. And you don't see too many Western tourists in Tibet. In fact, the only reason why we were here was because of timing. The Chinese government usually closes Tibet off from tourists. We made it outside of the airport, and we looked around for our tour guide. We had no idea what he or she looked like. Then, suddenly, a tan man with glasses waved to us, calling our names. We all ran with him to his car. We were panting and struggling to put on our seatbelts when our tour guide started placing white scarves around our necks. These scarves are called kata, and they are symbols of good luck. Lhasa welcomes you. Taken aback by his kindness, but also his previous insistence of running, we nodded and gave him our thanks. "My name is Yura, and I will be your guide here in Lhasa." He offered a warm, welcoming smile. We continued on a long road through a mountain over farmland. We saw a small man fishing in the distance, and Yura explained to us that he had to be Chinese. Tibetans have water barrels for their dead, and eating fish would be like eating their deceased. I found it to be fascinating, but I also felt sympathetic for the fishermen's ignorance. We made it to our hotel, and after the long drive, Yura let us relax and adjust to the altitude, as tomorrow would be a busy day. I wondered what Lhasa was like. I did not know much about Tibetan culture, but I was eager to learn. The next day, we began our drive to the Potala Palace. "It is a very holy place," Yura explained. I didn't have any idea what the palace was like or the significance it held. Yura pointed to a hill in the distance, and there on that hill stood the red and white Potala Palace. Turns out reincarnations of Buddha, known as Dalai Lama, are buried in the palace, their tombs made of solid gold. I was in possibly hundreds of rooms, examining ancient scrolls and paintings, and hearing monks chant throughout the palace. It was phenomenal to just have stood in that holy place and feel so insignificant. Not many people get to do this. I soon realized that it was not just the Potala Palace that was holy, but Lhasa itself. I saw people circling temples as we journeyed through the city, all chanting Tibetan prayers beneath their breaths. They are referred to as pilgrims. They must circle around the temple clockwise while they pray with their prayer wheels, Yura explained. At the Sera Monastery, we witnessed what Yura referred to as lamas, another term for Tibetan monks, who were moving in dance-like motions and chanting to each other. This was apparently their daily debate, in which they asked one another spiritual and moral questions that simply did not have answers. It was weird to watch, but also fascinating. Then Yura took us through a marketplace. We passed a group of lamas who were feeding stray dogs and texting on cell phones, which I didn't even realize monks did. We passed small children playing in the street and peddlers yelling from their stands, selling colorful carpets and handmade trinkets. But no matter where we were, whether it was the palace, the market, or the monastery, I had noticed one thing that occurred at every place we visited. Everyone would stare at us, all the time. Some people even took pictures with me, as if I was a celebrity. Apparently, some of the locals referred to me as Barbie, which was a first for me. I felt uncomfortable with all the attention. You are odd to them. They want to communicate with you and understand you in any way they can, Yura smiled reassuringly to me. And what he said made a lot of sense. Tibet was odd, and I was too. Much like how the third wheel stands out from a pair, I stood out from Tibet, and they stood out to me. We are ones in numerical value, individuals who cannot be grouped into fours and divided by twos. Thus, we are to wander through our lives as the odd numbers we are, separated from one another and never finding someone quite like us to call an even two. But that is why we are so remarkable. It is the reason Yura guided us. It is the reason why I watched the lamas debate and why I felt so incompetent at Potala Palace. We all have a desire to share our peculiar ways in order to connect with one another. So when we boarded the plane and I saw tears fall from my aunt's eyes, I realized we were all odd, every one of us, all out of place from one another. My aunt cried for the odd numbers in Tibet, knowing she'd probably never see this place again. And I cried too, because being odd has become precious to me. Thank you. All right, up next is Dominique Pasek.
Hi. So my first piece is a compilation of stories I got from different people who experienced being embarrassed because they didn't speak English well, and my second piece is a fictional piece about divorce. You left us 8 letters, 3 syllables, printed ink blots onto official documents. You arrived as 3 letters, 1 syllable, and no regret when it came to your name till someone tried to pronounce it. Your coworker didn't mean much when he asked about your t-shirt, which you did buy at a tourist stand for the appealing design. He asked if you were indeed rocking in Phoenix, and you stared at him with a face as blank as the perfectly English-free shirt you chose not to wear back in your apartment. When I was little, you cooked to the sound of a monotone man teaching a new English phrase. I would ask to change the channel because what he was saying seemed like a piece of cake, which that day, you learned from him, meant easy. 6th grade field day, I asked you if you noticed the water balloon imprint on your shirt, thrown at you when 2 classmates got sick of perfecting the art of imitating your accent. When you mispronounced a word, you would most likely use the American E instead of the A. I, your then 13-year-old daughter, would correct you usually without complaint, but this time I asked, seriously? Hurt, you replied, thanks a lot, the feeling of TH still as foreign as your tongue itself. 3 new letters you learned that year were P, B, and J, and the lady you nannied for thought that was the funniest thing ever. By the time she finished explaining, the kid lost their appetite. With talk of new food, you settled for the cheap, and the Burger King cashier had no patience for your unfamiliarity. For here or to go, he asked you 3 times. After responding, yes, you ate your to-go packed bag at the tables in the back. To buy a gift, you went to a cute shop where they wrapped them for the customers. That is, if the customer is able to ask them to, and you could have asked in fluent Russian, French, and Polish, but all you had to work with was your English. For those of you who believe that coming here, immigrants should know how to speak normalnie, have you ever stopped to put yourself in their sytuacja? Well, ja tak samo mogłabym z was się śmiać, że mnie nie rozumiecie, but instead of laughing at you for not understanding, I'll be patient as I expect you to be. Okay, this is my second piece. Everything in my old house was covered in Hello Kitty, like our toaster. Don't ask me where we got that, I don't know. There was a lot of Hello Kitty duct tape that I could tell you about, though. I remember going to Target and shopping for school supplies, and they always had these huge bins of duct tape in different patterns. I saw the Hello Kitty pattern. Mom said no the second she saw me pick it up. We got home maybe 20 minutes later, arms full of things we needed, not wanted. Just as I brought up the duct tape to my dad, another argument for that day began. Dad went out and bought me 1 roll as a present then for having to hear that. They thought about that, too. I eyed my gift in awe in my room for a few minutes. I heard a crash downstairs. Thank goodness I had this handy duct tape. I hopped down the stairs, and just as I reached the bottom, I heard the door slam. Mom was just staring at her Hello Kitty toaster. With a quick stride, she pulled the plug out from the wall, brought the toaster over her head, and threw it on the ground. My eyes were watery and red, just like hers when she looked at me. It's okay, Mama. I have duct tape. At that moment, my obsession began. Every time we'd go to Target, Mom would say yes, so now I had 3 full rows, and every night there'd be a reason to use them. All these broken things would be in my house the next morning when I went to pick up my Hello Kitty backpack, and yeah, I could put tape on most of them, but just 2 specific things I couldn't have duct tape fix them because they yelled at me to stop being silly when I tried. I tried. They told me not to talk about this to anyone because it's private family problems, but if it's private, why do you get to talk about it in front of guests? Dad, you called Mom a word and I thought it was a loving name like honey or dear because that's all you used to call her, but when I told Mom, Mom, you're such a bitch, with a smile, she slapped me and gave me a Hello Kitty Band-Aid as a 3-day-long reminder not to say that. You told me not to talk, and since you're Mom and Dad, I gotta obey. I didn't talk. I put Hello Kitty duct tape on my mouth. You told me not to look. I looked at Mom's red eyes and saw that Dad's had dark circles. I tried not to, and I'm sorry that I did. It's hard, because you do it usually where I am at home. You told me not to look. I put Hello Kitty duct tape on my eyes. You didn't have to tell me not to listen. I got sick of listening to you repeating the same thing about each other and your differences, because yeah, I got it, you guys are real different, but really is it that hard to keep our lovely old family the same? And I got sick of hearing you guys tell me it's not your fault. Well, I feel like it's my fault because you tell me you love me over and over, and really, don't you think the other person in the house would like to hear that? Yeah, I feel like it's my fault because I'm stealing all the I love yous. I put that Hello Kitty duct tape on my ears. I hugged my Hello Kitty teddy and told myself soon I'd have my own huge collection of duct tape and I'll tape Mom and Dad together so they cannot leave each other. I didn't make it in time. I had 10 Hello Kitty duct tape rolls. It would have taken maybe 12, but it was too late. I go school supply shopping at a different Target now. I don't know its address because I barely have my new one memorized. Mom spots the duct tapes and asks me if I want another roll and takes all my strength not to use that word I got that disgusting Band-Aid for. I walk over to the spiral notebooks. I spot a red and black one. It has Minnie Mouse on it. I put it in the cart. And next up, we have Zoe Chi.
Hi everyone, my name's Zoe Chi. I have gone to the same dentist for 10 years now, and for as long as I can remember, we have this running joke where I guess the flavor of the tooth polishing paste he uses. During my routine checkup in August, he asked the same question he always has: how does it taste today? In the prospect of his school starting back up and other similar terrors on my mind, I found I had completely forgotten about it. It was a simple question, but I found myself struggling to answer. I just quickly replied, nothing. It tastes like nothing. He seemed hardly affected and replied, oh, well, it's grape. Nice. I wouldn't know. In early May of last year, I was involved in an accident in which I fractured my skull, which is ironic because I've always bragged about never breaking a bone, and then I go and break a pretty important one. I was in the hospital on fluids for days, throwing up excess blood and water, constantly being probed by doctors. What day is it? What's your name? Can you believe it's not butter? Tiring, right? So for my efforts in the ICU, the nurses gave me a bowl of applesauce. I was so excited, until I ate some and it was more like nothing sauce. Get that trending, hashtag nothing sauce. It didn't even smell like apple, and then I sniffed around, and then I realized I couldn't smell anything. And then all hell broke loose. Well, not exactly, but for me, that's how it felt. They told me that people with traumatic head injuries can lose their ability to smell, called anosmia. There are not many people with this condition. They would understand that I have this fear that I smell, like all the time. So you guys let me know if I smell, okay? And when things do smell nice, it can be often really difficult for people to describe things to me. You know, it smells like how summer paradise should smell. Exactly, I know exactly what you mean, thank you. Which brings me to a sampling of some of my favorite questions. Do you still eat food even though you can't taste? No. Similarly to that, people also ask me if I still breathe out of my nose or even breathe at all. I personally hate mouth breathers, so. People also like to ask if I can still smell certain scents like flowers or grapefruit, as if there's one singular smell that is almighty and powerful enough that it can break through the barriers of my mind and allow me to smell it. Yep. These questions used to make me mad, but now they make me happy because I have stupidity to laugh at. Well, it's been almost 10 months now, and my parents are optimistic I'll regain my ability to smell, which happens to a few people, but it's hard to think positively when you're the one experiencing it. You guys might not quite understand right now, and it's a gift and a curse that I have to experience this at a young age, but I have learned so much, especially about people. People often tell me that I should be grateful about my situation, that they would prefer if smell was the only sense they lost. I agree. I'm so grateful I didn't lose my hearing or sight from my accident. But here is where we watch our wording. A few friends of mine have told me they wouldn't care much if they lost their smell at all, and others have blatantly laughed at the fact that I can't smell. How am I, someone who's experiencing it firsthand every day, supposed to feel about that? What makes them think they can tell me that my condition doesn't matter? Because it matters to me. And partially this is my fault. People who know me know that I like to put humor in situations. I must have unintentionally given these people the idea that they can make jokes about my condition. Recently, I've been withdrawing the jokes. There's an adult around me who doesn't take me seriously at all. They don't make me feel comforted. Instead, they blow it off as if it isn't real. I find that it might be particularly hard to believe things we can't see. You see, at the beginning, even I would forget that I couldn't smell. I used to always put perfume on me until I could smell it. Yeah, keep spraying, Zoe. And sometimes I still unconsciously lean in to smell things to realize I look stupid. No one should be accountable for remembering, and I'm never going to be offended if you forget. It might be invisible at times, but that doesn't mean it's not there. I've never asked for sympathy since the beginning of my recovery, and I don't plan on asking for it now. What I'm asking for is understanding and acceptance. I don't want to give up my humorous ways because people are taking advantage of them. It is okay that we don't completely understand how others feel. But we are in no place to tell them how to feel or to ridicule or to even mildly insinuate that we can comprehend what it's like to be them. Because we can't. Something I'd like to share is the scent I miss the most. I would have to say I miss the moment when you hug a friend or someone and you get that tiny whiff of what they smell like. That scent that is so foreign to them, but so familiar to you, to me at least. It was really comforting, not only the intimacy you're sharing with a close friend, but the personal connection you're making. A small reminder that we are all just little pieces in the big box of life, but here you are with me. I miss that. Anosmia leaves me with one less way I can tell people about the world. Thank you all. Next up is Mason Norris.
I'm usually not one to go in front of many people and share my stories. Hell, I could barely answer a question without getting nervous in Spanish. But here I am. I'm writing this and sharing such a personal piece because I need to be set free what's been heavily collapsing on my heart for 7 months. I can be at peace for knowing maybe I can be helping someone out in the audience, deal with personal struggles, and give them the courage to stand up and speak freely on what your heart desires. Your heart is such a beautiful thing and it deserves to be at peace. So, growing up, I knew my family wasn't the picture-perfect family. We had our ups and downs, but even when I was little, I knew something didn't click. My parents seemed distant, not the kind of parents I really wanted to grow up being. They barely showed any affection, and they did certainly not look at each other the way I look at the person I love. I found it kind of funny. Growing up and realizing your family was full of imperfections, for some odd reason, I wasn't quite okay with that. But I got used to it. I know that all families are never perfect, and I should be happy with how my family is. I mean, was. Right before this school year started, my whole world was turned inside out. I remember that day clearly, waking up on a perfect summer day and going downstairs and of course getting a donut. My mom was sitting on the couch and her face looked really puzzled and I knew something wasn't quite right. I asked, "Mom, what's wrong?" After the words she exchanged with me, it hit me my family was never close to being the picture-perfect family I wanted it to be. Divorce. As you may think right now, my parents are getting a divorce, but you're wrong. They've been divorced since I was 2 years old, but have still been living together. Now what I don't get is how to even react. Mad, sad, happy? I went quiet. My whole world went quiet. Fast forward to 2 weeks from that day, she left. My mom left. My best friend in the whole entire world, the only person in my family I was ever close to. So she left, not just a town away, states away. Since then, I've basically been parenting my own parent. Sometimes getting drunk phone calls throughout the night and helping her out with the abusive relationship she had at the time. She should be helping me. She should be helping me go through the issues that I'm going through. All I can hope for is that despite not being here for her daughter, I hope she's happy. And I hope she's seeing this right now as she said she would. And I hope she's smiling. I hope she's proud of the daughter that's growing up and quite honestly, just surviving through her sophomore year of high school. I sometimes wonder if she thinks of me. When she wakes up right when it starts to get light out, knowing her daughter is asleep, but not sound asleep like it used to be. The kind of restless sleep that you get and you toss and turn and can't get comfortable, that's where I am right now, not comfortable. At the fact she wakes up, has her morning coffee and the smell of cigarettes, I'll never get over that smell. As for me, 671 miles away from that, I still wake up, but not to the smell of coffee and cigarettes. I wake up to silence, something I'll never quite get used to. I wonder if she thinks of me in the littlest things, like going in the car and looking to the passenger seat and knowing I'm not there. Or sitting at her new place she calls home and doesn't do the laundry like she used to. I wonder if she misses that. I wonder if she misses actually doing something for me. Now what she does is very slim to none. The simple things. Or maybe she doesn't. Because it seems so simple for her to walk out that door a couple months back. So simple to leave her daughter alone, confused, and forever questioning why. Why isn't she here walking with me? Why isn't she here waking me up? Why isn't she here helping me get ready for dances? Why was I not good enough for her to stick around? And especially, why leave me when I need you the most? Why doesn't it smell like coffee brewing or cigarette ash? The simple things to me was a daughter that looked up to their mother, and now that's been taken away from me. The simple things are sometimes the hardest to say. The last I heard from her was a voicemail dated Friday, September 19th, saying, "I love you, Mason, and I miss you." Maybe the simple things are the easiest to say because it's so simple and not truthful. Tomorrow I will wake up, and she will too. We are both under the same sky, and now that's how I get to sleep tonight. We don't talk much anymore, we never saw eye to eye, but at least I know we're under the same sky, and that's enough to keep me going. Tomorrow will be the same pattern. I'll wake up, not comfortable. Thank you. Now please welcome Abby Urias.
Hey there. Hi, my name's Abby, as you said, and I'm a junior. I wrote this piece as kind of like a letter to myself because I used to struggle a little bit with like anxiety and being really self-conscious. And I wanted to write about how like doing Writers Week last year really helped me, and just some things I'd like to say to myself now if I could. So, first of all, please grow out your bangs. For the love of God, there are people who can pull that off, but you cannot. While we're being honest here, Santa Claus is a lie created by your parents to manipulate you into being good for a year, but trust me, you will not need artificial motivation to be good past age 10. High School Musical will leave you brutally unprepared for high school, but you will not need to get your head into any game because you'll quit your favorite sport after sitting on the bench all season. You will write this while procrastinating on physics, math, Spanish, and psychology, and you will feel like the weight of each textbook is pressing down on your chest, but you'll write it anyway because there will be things that are more important to you than what you can see on a report card. You will write a poem your sophomore year, and the person you wanted to love it most will tell you that it's depressing, and it will make you cry, but you'll read it to an auditorium full of students anyway, who may or may not appreciate it. You will feel scared and embarrassed, but you'll do it because you think that the only way your grandpa can hear the way you miss him is if you use a microphone, as if heaven gives a better reception that way. When you walk off the stage wondering if anyone really heard you, there will be a girl who you've never seen before who tells you that she did, and it will instill in you a kind of desire to write that will fill both journals and your heart. You will probably not go to Harvard, or Yale, or Princeton. You will not be a ballerina princess skater because apparently it doesn't pay very well. You should probably start looking at colleges now because the good Lord knows you should have an answer by the time you're 16 to the question, so where do you want to go to school? There will be only one official boyfriend by the time you're 16, and to be honest, even he shouldn't really count. But don't worry, life is not like the movie Mean Girls, and there will be things to do on a Friday night that don't involve someone paying for you. You will go on a cruise freshman year and fall in love with a boy from Indiana and sneak out of dinner to watch the sunset with him, then kiss him goodbye, only to find out a month later he has a girlfriend. This will make you realize that life is not the movie Titanic, even though an iceberg feels lodged in your heart, but trust me, you'll get over it. You will like boys exclusively as far as you know, and some will not like you back. There will be a boy whose eyes are like an ocean mist and you are lost at sea, but you will capsize, and no amount of singing You Belong With Me or Teardrops on My Guitar by Taylor Swift will make it all better, but you'll learn that drowning out the sadness with song can help. Your dad will tell you that your lack of male attention is because you intimidate them, and you will tell yourself it's because they don't appreciate you, but there will be a tiny voice inside your head that says you're not good enough for them. You'll think to yourself that you are too loud and too nerdy, too prude, too ugly, too bland, too awkward, always a special brand of too much that somehow makes you not enough, but is only because the light inside of you is too bright for them. You will spend years with friends to spare, but sometimes your practice schedule becomes your only schedule, and you'll forget how it feels to go to an event that you did not commit to 3 months earlier after a tryout. You will begin a job that works Fridays and Saturday nights, and sorry I'm busy will ring in your head like a bell, and when you stop working, you'll feel like there's no one left. There will be weeks where no one texts you about anything besides math homework. But you'll have to remind yourself every day that you are a candle burning bright, even though there's no one there to see it. There will be a time where no one likes me, it feels like it echoes in your head, except you think echoes are supposed to fade after time, but this one won't, not for a while. Then you'll go on a church retreat to find God, but you'll really find people who come into the empty room you felt you occupied and will warm themselves by the light held within you. You will feel love, the kind that curls up beside you and sleeps at night, and the kind that burns inside of you like a bonfire, and both will be good. Some days you'll feel like you were imagined by a fairy, be full of life and pixie dust, and some days you'll feel like a collection of raindrops gathered in a sewer. Some days you'll feel like you've been forged from the pits of hell, all fire and brimstone, and some days like a drawing that someone forgot to color in the lines of. It will take you a long time, but you will learn that the collection of who you are is nowhere near constant, because you are an explosion of particles that holds the universe inside of you. You will be brave and smart and beautiful and funny and loving, even if you don't believe that. At this age, you may think it's conceited that I say these things, but you will learn that self-love is the most important kind because you are the only thing that you can be sure will be there until your last breath. You will let your heart be an empty glass that you fill each day with love until it spills out the sides and you're drowning in it. But trust me, it'll be the first time you can breathe. You will find the courage to stand up on a stage in front of people you go to school with and tell them your secrets, and you'll look at each and every one of them and think that they're so beautiful and full of light and love, even if they think that you are bat-ass crazy and full of shit. You will be happy. Thank you. And then I kind of had like to end this off on a good note, so hit it, Ish. Delicious definition, make them boys go local. They want my treasure, so they get their pleasures from the boat. So you can see me in kiss, please. That's my name. All right, let's have one more round of applause for our very brave student leaders and writers. And we have just a couple minutes left in the period, so we're going to ask each of you where your inspiration for writing comes from. You can talk about the piece you read today, or just in general, what inspires you to write.
So the first piece, like I said, I knew a lot of people that got made fun of for not knowing English that well. So I decided to write something about that. And then the second piece, honestly, we actually do have a roll of Hello Kitty duct tape at my house. So I was like, hey, looks like a good idea.
I get my inspiration from the people I care about the most and the experiences I go with through those people. They really help me become a stronger writer in general, and that's what gives me my strength to keep writing.
So I kind of don't write, so...
I just kind of wrote it. It was like right after winter break when we had like those 2 snow days in a row, and I was mostly just kind of lonely. So I just wrote it like 4 a.m.
It's gonna sound kind of corny, but anything really. I write for fun all the time, and yeah.
All right, and our last question for the period is going to be, what is your favorite memory of Writers Week? And it can be the 2 days we've had so far this year, or any of your past Writers Weeks.
Probably the first time I saw Mary Fonz. That was awesome, because she's awesome.
I mean, I did it last year, so that was kind of fun. Actually terrifying. But I liked Kevin Pang, who's this year. He was pretty funny.
Daphne Willis is great, and Sierra Mulder, and presenting up here is awesome too.
What I really like about Writers Week so far is seeing all the students and having them have the courage to come up here and share their story, because it also inspires me even more.
I don't really have one specific memory that I really like about Writers Week. I'm just thankful it's a thing at Friend.
All right, thank you so much for being a wonderful audience, and we'll see you next hour.
Check 2.